Joe, is the team planning on having Porzingis there for Game 1?
What did he say?
He says he's hoping for that.
Yeah, he's working on it. I thought he's done a great job working hard, getting to this point. Has gone through the practices, and we still have to see how he responds, each day to the what he's doing from a physical standpoint. So I think he's on pace, and he's doing everything he can to get back. So we'll see how he feels tomorrow. We'll see how he feels the next day, and see how he feels heading into the game.
And separately from Porzingis, with this long layoff, is there any kind of tendency for things to be kind of like an overthinking kind of thing? Because usually when there's a lot of time, there's a lot of time to kind of like go down roads. Maybe you overthink from your perspective or from the outside perspective. What's the challenge there in making sure you found the right game plan and that you haven't gone like too far the other way?
I mean, what constitutes the right game plan? If you win, I mean, you could not do things well and win. You could do a bunch of things well and lose. So, I'm not quite sure what constitutes the right game plan. We have a specific set of things heading into the series that we're looking to take away, and we have a specific set of things that that we have to live with. And then on the offensive end, we have a specific set of things that we want to get to. But at the end of the day, I think both teams thrive on open-mindedness and constant adjustments, whether it's on a free throw, after a quarter, after a game. So, both teams are very open-minded to doing different things within a game. So there's non-negotiables that you have to have heading into a series like this, but you got to be ready to get to anything and everything because of the versatility that both teams present on both ends of the floor. And I think that's the most important thing, is having a clear understanding of what we're willing to live with, what we're willing to take away, and then where are the things that we have to be ready to be open-minded to kind of on both ends. That's sub-patterns, it's adjustments, that's everything. So every game is going to present a unique challenge, I think, because of the versatility of both teams.
Joe, what's that process going to be like of integrating Kristaps again? Obviously, you're going to rely on medical quite a bit, I'm sure, for minutes limits and stuff like that. But just in terms of how he's adapting to the intensity of the series, how he's adapting to just kind of getting back to the things that you guys do, how are you kind of anticipating that process going?
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing basketball for 30 years, and he's been playing in intense situations his whole life, so I don't think that'll be much of an issue. I think everything was just dependent upon, obviously you can't simulate the speed and the intensity of the game, which I think just comes with a little bit of reps. So KP's a great player. I think just because you've been out for a month doesn't mean you have to relearn how to play basketball. He's been doing a lot of great things for his career. He's done a lot of great things for us this season on both ends of the floor, with physicality, with intensity. And I expect him to pick right back up where he left off. But obviously, there'll be a little bit of rust. But just not concerned because of the work that he's put in and what he's done in his career and what he's done in this season for us.
And you guys had a lot of success in crunch time in the late games, last series in particular, coming off the regular season. What would you most attribute that to in terms of what you guys did well there and, maybe adapting to the different things that Indiana threw at you in each game in that spot?
Everybody's definition of execution is result in making shots. So we made shots. If the ball didn't go in, then, the narrative would have been we didn't execute late game. So in order to execute late game, you got to make the shot. From an outside perspective. From a process-oriented perspective, our attack was good. Our pace was good. We got into actions between 16 and 17 seconds. We got to our spacing. We made the right play. We didn't turn it over, and we made shots. So you have to do that. In order to win games, you got to make shots in close games. It's one of the most important things. But I like the process of what we got into, how quickly we got into it, and I liked our spacing, and I like we made the right read at the right time.
Joe, right after the injury, Kristaps sort of spoke to us about how, not necessarily disappointed, but frustrating it was to get to this point and not be able to play in these big games. How have you seen him sort of balance the natural anxiety and eagerness to get back on the court with also having just understand that there's a process involved to get 100%?
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things he's brought to our team this year was his ability to just kind of stay balanced. I mean, he's one of the more seasoned players. He's been through so much. He's played in the New York market. He's played in Dallas. He's played in Washington. Now he's played here. So he's kind of seen what the NBA is from every angle. And he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. So I think he's continued that even throughout this rehab process, trying to get back to. But it was something that kind of I thought helped us throughout the entire year, just kind of the way he approached every day.
Joe, throughout the playoffs, you guys have taken some strategies to let teams get good looks in the paint, just to make sure they don't get open corner threes. How has the team been at accepting getting scored on at times so that you can win the math game long term? And How much of a challenge is it to like get scored on consistently, knowing it's kind of the right thing to do and not let that affect you on the other end?
Yeah, the most important thing is what seems to be good might not always be good, and what seems to be bad might not always be bad. And so I think the term giving up good looks is relative, because it's all based on the points per shot and the points per possession and the situation and what you're willing to live with at that particular time. And so I think at the end of the day, the best thing our team does is they have situational awareness to what a team's strengths are and to what a team's weaknesses are, and what can we do to get them to go do something that they're not wanting to do or used to doing. And that's the most important thing. And so and then able to have the emotional toughness to withstand things that you have to go through. I think especially in the playoffs, like there's no such thing as stopping a team. There's leverage and risk management. Like, what are you willing to take away and what are you willing to live with? You have to live in those spaces. And when you're in those spaces, you have to be willing to fight for that. And then you got to be open-minded and ready to go to something different when it's necessary. And a lot of that has to do with situational basketball. Are you winning? Are you tied? Are you down? All those things matter. And so the most important thing is that our team brings a high level of physicality, a high level of toughness, but then an open mind to like, hey, here's how the game's going and here's where we need to adjust to. It's one of the best things the guys have done this year.
Joe, with 10 days between series and a week between when Dallas won, everyone's going to create narratives, storylines, what to watch, who the pressure's on, all of that. Do you tell your players to pay attention to those things, ignore them, accept them, who the pressure's on, who's the best player in the series, who's the fifth best player in the series, why Jason didn't smile wide enough when Jalen won his MVP? Like, all of that is coming in. How do you tell your players to digest those, if at all?
I mean, every player handles it differently. I think our guys have been through a lot. We have a relatively young team, but a tested team of what the NBA brings you over the course of, a season and a career. And so everybody handles that differently. And so you just trust what the guys have gone through and the process that they have. Sometimes it's good for people to hear it. Sometimes it's good for people to ignore it. Sometimes it's good for people to understand it. It just depends. I mean, everybody is different. At the same time, you talk to your collective mindset about, like, here are the truths. The truth says there will always be expectations because that's what we set for ourselves. The truth is, pressure is nothing more than an opportunity that you have. That'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there 5 years from now. So, like, you have to normalize some of this stuff because it's always going to be there regardless of the situation that you're in. Some of it is based on how you handle it as an individual.
And can you recall your mentality going into the finals 2 years ago as an assistant?
I mean, not really. No.
You just forgot. Like,
I didn't forget. It was just
what do you remember about that series and your role and kind of the team?
Yeah. I didn't really have a role in it because it wasn't my scout, and the way we just did things differently, and so I didn't really have much of a role in it. I'm more of just a natural observer. But the thing I remember the most was like you kind of brought it to your attention. Like what goes into winning a regular season game is no different. What goes into winning a playoff game, and just because it's the finals doesn't mean you need to focus on anything other than executing the details that are important. There were plenty of quote-unquote adjustments, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and at the end of the day, we didn't rebound the basketball, and, we didn't make shots down the stretch, and we lost some of the margin. So, like, I was able to look at it from the behind the bench and say, like, everyone's trying to make this out to be such an emotional thing in a situation, and it really comes down to the details. The team that plays the hardest, the team that executes, the team that makes the more plays, the team that dominates the margin, that's the team that wins. And, like, it's the same no matter what. And, like, we got to fight to keep that mentality.
Yeah, hi, Coach Joe, just a little bit different angle from what Gary was exploring. Obviously, they're different now with the trade that they made, the trades that they made. How much can you just talk about, without revealing too much, how much you're focusing on their others, PJ and Gafford and Hardy, obviously, and Green? They've become more effective too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the every decision you make has a consequence, a good one and a negative one. And so when you decide to do A, you leave yourself susceptible to B. You decide to do B, you leave yourself susceptible to C. And this team does a great job of doing both of those things. Like, it could always be like, hey, how are you going to stop player X? And it's like, well, then if you do that, you open up corner threes, you open up offensive rebound opportunities. You get into 2-on-1 situations to where you're spread. That's when their role guys are at their best at crashing behind you to go get offensive rebounds. And I think as much as we talk about Irving and Doncic, their role guys are big-time players. They make plays in transition. They make plays on offensive rebounds. They make timely threes, and they defend at a high level to give their guys a chance to win. So that's the whole point of the game plan is risk management, what you're willing to live with, what you're willing to take away, be ready to change depending upon how your environment is.